Hey guys, Dov here, and my love of powder units is well known. Today we're taking a look at one of the quintessential powder units for the Empire, of course, the Great Cannon. Very essential tool in the Empire's arsenal and gives it, great long-range artillery option. I'll talk about some general concepts of cannons today as well, but as for the rest of the build, we've got Boris the Todd, a warrior priest with some Demigryph Knights, 2 Empire Knights, State Troop Spearmen up to rank 5, and Sigmar's Sons, Pistoliers of course, and a wagon, so a nice mixed skirmish force here. As for Poison Ducky's High Elves here, he's got some Silver Helms, Rangers up front, Everqueens Court Guards, and some more Sisters of Averlorn, Techless up in the air on his Murder Bird, and Spearmen and Silverin Guard. So, the cannon. You might think, it says anti-large in the tooltip, shouldn't I be shooting Techless? He's the most valuable thing on the field anyway. Well, here's the thing. It's going to be hard to hit Techless, and cannons, at the end of the day, don't actually deal all that much missile damage. I say that. They do actually quite a lot of missile damage, but the reload time is pretty significant. And hitting a fast, flying unit like Techless, who especially can give himself damage resistance and has almost unlimited healing for himself, it's not going to be great value, right? So instead I choose to shoot the next most valuable target and one that I can actually kill the unit models of and thus slowly sap its stopping power. Oh yeah, and that's the Everqueens Court Guards, of course. So even though it says anti-large in the tooltip, really it's anti-everything, right? It's not like it has some specific anti-large bonus. And shooting, especially things that the models will get one-shotted, so that's like any cavalry unit, any monstrous infantry units too, I believe. I would need to check. I'm trying to think exactly how much HP they have per model, but probably a lot of them, like all cavalry and infantry, obviously, it's going to one-shot their unit models. So right now, you also see how I'm kind of playing up forward from it. Because I have more mobility units than Poison Ducky here, I can kind of push the pocket, and especially he burns this net to take out the War Wagon, which is not the worst idea in the world. That then allows me to punch through more aggressively with these Empire Knights without fear of retaliation. We're going to go straight through the Rangers, just crush them, and immediately, Poison Ducky gets a pretty good play here in following up with the Silver Helms to pinion place, and now unleashes that beautiful fiery convocation, but all the meanwhile, the cannon's continuing to pound, and because these Everqueens Court Guards are now at a side angle, oh man, absolutely brutal shots coming down the side, hitting like almost the entirety of the unit here. Demigryph Knights with the Warrior Priest, going to deploy now from the woods here. We're going to sweep up on this side, but I decide instead to come decisively defeat these Silver Helms. We're going to rush in with those Pistoliers just to pin them in place, so that my Warrior Priest and Demigryph Knights can get in there, get the buffs active, and take them out. Boris trying to work on Techless with the support of this Manticore here, but largely falling apart. The Empire Knights are gone. I've got some supporting infantry here, like these Sigmar's Sons and Spearmen now, but I'm going to have to pull up another Manticore to go for another timing push. This part of the battlefield, though, I've been able to win very decisively. You can see the Silver Helms literally get shattered there. Likewise, the Everqueens Court Guards are going to get wiped out by this cannon. Like, I'll just say it right now. Spoiler alert. I probably overkill a little bit on this unit here and forget to switch targets. But, I mean, against Elves, is there any sort of thing such as overkill? Oh man, yeah, just brutal side shots there. And just that in and of itself has obviously paid for the cannon, taking out a much more expensive unit. Still has a lot of ammo left, too, to work on other high-value targets. Demigryph Knights come in. Techless gets a nice little up-and-around charge in the air there, and it's going to be able to do some decent damage. Boris comes in, taking some serious heat from those Everqueens Court Guards. Thought I'd click the Manticore to go onto them, but looks like, in fact, not. Manticore gets hit with the Enfeebling Foe anyway, and I guess these are not the Court Guards. Regular Sisters of Averlorn. Going to pull up point blank here and just dump mortar style all of their shots into Boris with disturbingly good accuracy, considering Techless is right there as well. I mean, I guess he has fire resistance. They're now getting shelled by the cannon, though. Also got the War Wagons back, just kind of plinking at whatever they can. They've got a couple modules left, so it can still do a really good amount of damage. Empire Knights also. And state troops just kind of trading with Rangers. I mean, in a lot of cases they won't necessarily win, but they'll hold them in place cost-effectively for a decent amount of time. But yeah, these Demigryph Knights actually taking a surprising amount of damage. As they surround Teclis, though, he's going to start to feel the pain. Pistoliers come in to disrupt those sisters. Make sure they can't keep firing. And I'm not sure exactly what the cannon's targeting right now, but we check in. Up to 96 kills there with that shot. 2 XP chevrons, and firing at infantry almost the entire time. So the kind of broad concepts like targeting priority, playing forward from your artillery, I guess that's not super applicable to the dwarves, and it is applicable to a degree to Skaven, definitely. Like, you want some different layers, and I guess that's really the thing, is you create spacing by layering rather than with mobility like you do with the Empire. But yeah, in terms of cannon-type artillery, like the direct fire artillery, I guess you could maybe consider bolt throwers in a similar class, although I do think there's important distinctions. Like, bolt thrower shots tend not to pass through unit models in the same way as cannons.
Don't give them an inch!
And I mean, like, the Warp Lightning Cannon obviously has an explosion element to it as well, and also deals magic damage, but significantly more expensive. Dwarf Cannon's probably the most cost-effective. I'd have to double-check. I believe it's the same price as the Empire Cannon, but Empire having the combined arms sort of strategy means the cannon can really, really shine here, and I don't know if I'll name a best-in-class for this class, just because I think they're all kind of equally good in different ways, or in the same ways. Like, honestly, Dowie cannons and Empire cannons are very, very similar. We'll do a comparison in just a moment, but yeah, very fun game to Poison Ducky. Love the name, by the way, Bonus versus Bread. Definitely something that I have in real life. Yeah, Sisters of Avalorn actually getting some really nice value there, but still just the numbers game going against the high elves here, as I was able to secure mobility pretty significantly, and 109 kills at the end of the day for the cannons. Demigryph Knights also got some great work done, being my insurance, able to take out Teclis with the buffs there. Boris tanked out a lot of damage, which, you know, I guess is a role he can play just fine. 85 kills on Sigmar's Sons as well. Silverengard doing a decent job, and Rangers actually, considering the situation they were thrown into, actually got some pretty decent kills there. But yeah, in terms of just cannons in a broad sense, in terms of comparisons, Empire and Dowie cannons are the most directly comparable. And I guess Vampire Coast as well. I'm forgetting about Coast in this discussion. They actually probably have the best cannons, but because they're the cheapest. But yeah, 450 range, absolutely massive. I believe Dwarf Cannons might be slightly longer. 440, actually, slightly less range and missile damage, but the crew is Dwarven, so they have magic resistance and better leadership stats, which doesn't really matter at all. But magic resistance actually to help shrug off, like, Spirit Leeches. I don't want to say that it applies to the actual models of the artillery itself. I could be wrong about that, but I'm like 90% sure that's the case. Granted, Vampire Coast, yeah, it's the same missile damage. They have a slightly longer reload time than Empire Cannons, but their crew, more importantly, is undead, which means they actually can't rout. They will crumble very quickly, but they actually can't rout. Yeah, and this extra powder as well. Besides the lower cost, this extra powder means they'll do more damage on the first few volleys. Granted, their accuracy is lower, but yeah, I think honestly just because of the lower cost, that makes them automatically a little bit more cost effective. But honestly, all three of these are basically interchangeable in terms of, yeah, I guess not really in terms of how you use them. In a lot of ways in terms of how you use them. The main difference with Empire being that you have a much more mobile faction than either of these other two, and you have a lot more flexibility in the different things you can do, whereas Vampire Coast and Dwarves are a little bit more linear, a little bit more static, and just slower in general, right? Across the board. Skaven are less slow, but they still are somewhat slow. Warp Lightning Cannons also are significantly more expensive. They do less overall missile damage, I think. But again, they have that explosive component, and they also have 70 bonus versus large, a true bonus versus large, which will make them much more effective against those types of targets. The magic damage is also typically very good, but there are some counters for it as well, so it's kind of a little bit of a mixed bag. Likewise, the Warp Lightning Cannons also have the biggest unit model of any of these artillery pieces, and thus are the easiest to destroy in a counter-artillery skirmish, missile engagement. So, yeah, there's some things to consider about cannons. Empire cannons, in my book, and granted I'm 100% biased, they're the best because they're on the most well-balanced faction, and you can actually do this very effectively. Play forward from your artillery with cavalry components and, with mobile griffins and things, and as such, you don't have to go for the type of sort of static layered defense that these other three factions often have to do. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed watching that one. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.